Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at crypto mining stocks and more specifically Bitcoin miners. So we're going to go through a list of stocks that I personally am invested in and that I like. So not financial advice at all, but I'm purely going to take a look at the charts, take a look at some of the news with you today and give you my thoughts on what I think is to come for some of these stocks, because we've seen absolutely explosive moves in some of these crypto miners already. Some of them are up 5x already over this year, which is absolutely insane. So I think if you are a crypto investor, they are another area that you can look to invest into to get exposure to the crypto narrative. Certainly if you're a holder of stocks, or if you're a holder of things such as ISAs or SIPs, which in the UK is a self-invested pension plan, then you're able to actually get crypto exposure through these Bitcoin mining stocks, and there'll be a couple of other stocks that we look at as well. So this is really about crypto stocks that you can get exposure to through the crypto narrative. So we'll just start by actually taking a look at Bitcoin, and we can see that Bitcoin, as per our last update, is still consolidating above its kind of recent range highs. And I've said I quite like Bitcoin here. I quite like this as a area of possible continuation, especially now we close sort of above this sort of 30k level, to actually probably continue up to around about, I would say my next target is around about sort of like the 36k area. And if we see that, we could actually potentially see Bitcoin push up into the 40k range as well. And I've just looked at this with you before, but I've basically called that this kind of one big range that Bitcoin was in, really entering this range at the start of 2021, obviously reaching the peak at the end of 2021, and basically this range that we had throughout 2021, even almost halfway through 2022, kind of captured a lot of the price action. And we can kind of see here, if we just look at what sort of 50% of this range would be, it would be around about that sort of 48, 49k level. So I do think that potentially could be a magnet for price if we do continue to rally on Bitcoin. And that would obviously, if we saw continuation from here up towards sort of the high 40k, high 40s area, then this would be great for some of the other plays that we're going to look at in this video. And just to kind of tie that in, we'll just see what the dollar's doing, because the dollar's starting to break down today. It's down 0.25% at the time of recording, and we can see, like I've drawn this trend line on here. I was watching to see if this trend line would get broken. It has actually been broken yesterday. We've seen follow through today, so I do expect the dollar to come down and probably test these yearly lows now, and we will have to see whether the dollar breaks this level or not. But obviously this level is coming in around about 100 on the DXY, and you can see you've got these lower highs coming in here as well on the daily and also the weekly chart. And yeah, the dollar is looking weak, which should play into the hands of risk assets, including stocks and including crypto, and obviously definitely including crypto stocks, as they are correlated to both stock market and the crypto markets. And we can actually see that the Nasdaq here is looking to sort of pull back around. We're just green for the day. The S&P as well has now looked to tick back up as well. It's above all of its sort of daily moving averages. Same with the Nasdaq. It's just finding a little bit of support here on its 20-day MA, and it looks like if we can probably close above that, we will see some continuation. So risk assets are looking very, very good, and we will now go on to the subject of today's video, which is crypto stocks. So just before I go there, I just would say, if you do like the content, please do support the channel by smashing the like button. Also, if you want to stay in the know and keep yourself updated in real time, I post all of my sort of updates up on Twitter. I can't always jump on and make a YouTube video there and then when I see something happening. But obviously, if I do see something happening, I will try and tweet it out. So you can see here, this post was just from earlier on today, US dollar daily downtrend confirmed, and obviously just talking about the sort of lower highs that we've seen coming in, and we can kind of see there. It was obviously posted out when this trend line was lost, and obviously we've since continued to come down on the dollar. So if we actually just go and look at a news article, this was posted yesterday, so pretty recent. Vanguard now owns $560 million worth of Bitcoin mining stocks. So obviously Vanguard are absolutely huge in the investment world. They've got 7.2 trillion of assets under their management, and obviously they've been going heavy into blockchain stocks such as Mara and Riot. So we can see here, obviously, holdings up to its marathon holdings by 60%. So it's added a significant amount of more shares into Mara and also Riot as well. So yeah, and also it just goes on to say how Vanguard said that the long-term investment case of cryptocurrencies is weak 2 years ago, and obviously now it's started to change its tune, and it's obviously buying up some of these crypto miners at what looks to be the start of another crypto bull run. And I mean, all I will say is don't listen to what these people say, watch what these people do, because we've seen it time and time again that we'll see a big asset manager or hedge fund manager will come out, they'll slag off cryptocurrency, don't touch it, it's rat poison, leave it alone, it's you know, funny money, all this kind of thing. And then a few months later, it'll turn out that actually they've been buying huge amounts of the stuff. So yeah, you really need to be careful what you read, what you hear. But obviously, stories like this, obviously Vanguard, they have to disclose what they're buying, and you know, that's the great thing about these investment firms. You can actually see what it is that they're doing with their money, and Vanguard obviously putting $500 million into crypto stocks is a very encouraging sign. And obviously, if we take a look at Mara, we will see that Mara is absolutely on a tear. So if we just look at where the stock was right at the end of last year, this couple of days before Christmas. So yeah, if you've been sort of holding Mara, wasn't a very merry time of the year for you. But we can see, yeah, it was down at like just above $3, and now we're up to over $17. That's a 450% increase. So that's a 5.5x from its low. And I mean, it's, you know, it's still going. It's looking very, very strong. And if we just look at Mara sort of longer term, we can kind of see this was I mean, this is when I personally started to get involved in mining stocks myself. It was towards the end of the 2020. Obviously, we'd been through COVID. Bitcoin was starting to press up, and I thought to myself, look, I've got some money in ISAs, and I was starting to grow a SIP as well at the same time. And I said, look, where can I get some exposure to crypto? I want to buy a sort of ETF product, or is there anything blockchain related? I couldn't really find anything. And then I heard about the miners, and the main one I got into was Riot, but also I got a little bit of Mara as well, and one or two others, HIVE blockchain, which I think are Canadian based, and they just saw absolutely explosive gains. And you know, I remember when these stocks were running up at the start of 2021, and you know, we've seen. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. We've gone from like sort of $2 to above $20 in the space of you know, a handful of weeks. And I was naturally thinking this is a bubble. I was taking profits. Things were coming back down. They were going up even more. So I didn't necessarily trade these fantastically well. I was getting in and out quite a lot, just because I was thinking, look, you know, if Bitcoin pulls back, we can come back down quite a lot. But we just kept on going. And yeah, obviously Mara made its final high in November of 2021, close to around the time that Bitcoin was also topping out too. And you can see that, I mean, this is a stock that did 95%. So that's obviously not too uncommon in the world of cryptocurrency for a token to fall 95% in a bear market. But obviously what you need to bear in mind with these crypto stocks is they seem to be correlated to Bitcoin with a factor of 3 or 5 or even more. So what I'm saying is when Bitcoin falls and goes into some sort of bear cycle, we'll expect to see some of these mining stocks really struggle, and indeed some of these mining stocks will actually be struggling just to survive, because obviously if they're mining Bitcoin if the production cost of them mining Bitcoin is higher than the market value of Bitcoin, obviously they're going to be making losses. And a couple of miners have really struggled over the bear market for that reason. I think I'm trying to think who they were. Was it I can't remember the name, but I'm sure one or two of them have actually gone bust. But and there's a couple that also went very close to going bust. I think Bitfarms did. I think ARGO Blockchain also did, which is another one I was watching. Fortunately, I wasn't involved, but yeah, quite scary time for some of these crypto miners. But obviously, the ones that have survived are now starting to really prosper. And we can see that even at today's prices, Marit's still about 80% down. So from its current price back to its all-time high, is still looking at about a 5x, which is not anything to really sort of snub at. So is that something that's possible over the next, say, year and a half? I definitely think so. I definitely think so. Could we go higher than the all-time highs? Anything's possible, right? I don't see there being any ceiling on some of these stocks. And also, this is a way that a lot of institutions feel a lot more comfortable getting exposure because of the custody issues currently with Bitcoin. So institutional money is more likely to enter through a listed company, a listed stock, i.e. a Bitcoin miner, potentially a company such as a MicroStrategy, which has become a bit of a Bitcoin ETF in itself with the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. So yeah, I think Mara is one that's looking very good. And I would say that if you are, looking to enter, people looking to enter into stock might be sort of advised to maybe wait for a pullback, but could we push up a little bit higher, maybe into this resistance here? I mean, this is the obvious one, obviously catches the lows from the middle of 2021. And obviously the first lows we initially saw in the bear market. And obviously a lot of buyers would have stepped in at these levels and potentially be looking to get out. So yeah, it could be that Mara kind of gets up to around about sort of $20 and starts to see a little bit of resistance coming in there, and potentially then pulls back. And does that coincide with Bitcoin running up to say 36,000, between there and 40,000, and then gets a sort of retrace, and then we see the miners come back down? It's possible, but it's also very possible that we just keep running and the pullback comes later on. I mean, if we just put our fib retracement tool on just to see what some of our levels here are, we can kind of see that 236 would be coming in around about $22. So yeah, do we push into that? Do we actually push on a bit higher? On our next major fib level will be around about 34. So you would say, look, if Bitcoin really was to get bullish and push up above 40K, then it could be reasonable to target a price entry, to have a price target on something like Mara of around about 34, and above that's around about 43. And obviously that seems like a long way to go, but when you look at Bitcoin getting up to potentially the middle of its range from 2021, I mean, if you were to just look at the range that Mara was in 2021, then you say the middle of that range is around about $50, or just over $50. So, could Mara potentially get back up to $50? I don't think it's likely this year, just because that is still a long way to go. But you just never know. Like I say, when Bitcoin really did flip around bullish and things started taking off at the end of last year, and Bitcoin was on its way to all-time highs, as soon as all-time highs broke, this thing absolutely exploded. And there's nothing to suggest that the same thing won't happen. But obviously, I think for us to see that real explosion, we would want to see Bitcoin breaking all-time highs. I still don't think that's going to happen until next year. So really on that basis, maybe we see prices sort of within the bottom half of the range for Mara up until that point. But yeah, remains to be seen. But I definitely think there's more upside to be had in something like Mara over the next few weeks. And if we then look at Riot as well, we can see very, very similar. Riot actually topped out earlier on in 2021, so actually in February, so much earlier than Mara did. And I personally was one of those people that said throughout the bull run of 2021, when we had Bitcoin back to its all-time highs in November, I was looking at this saying, right, I'm expecting Mara to at least kind of get back up to around about the $80 mark, but it never quite happened. So yeah, I was caught out slightly. And you can see, like, when a stock goes on a completely parabolic run like this, trades sideways and then falls, you've got to remember there's going to be a lot of people that get trapped here that are expecting higher prices. And I think for that reason, if you've ever got a chart which has like a high consolidation which then fails, then you're going to have plenty of bag holders that just really want to get out if price does return to those prices or to around those prices. So I think that's kind of what the case we saw with Mara. It just went so parabolic, it went so high so fast, and the prices up here were just not sustainable. So that is something to bear in mind with some of these crypto stocks. But again, we can see similar to Mara, we're looking at a price target of around about sort of 21, and that would coincide with this low from the middle of 2021 as well. So basically the bottom of its 2021 range. And then obviously if Bitcoin really does start tearing up, going up into the 40K range, I can see Mara definitely coming into the 30s or 40s itself. Sorry, Riot, should I say. And yeah, obviously right now, chart is looking healthy above all of its longer term moving averages on the weekly. Yeah, it's just it's in breakout mode, and I can't see it stopping here. I definitely think we come up and tag 20. Maybe then we get a pullback, but I would like to think that this black 200-week moving average will hold at that point. That could be around about sort of $13-14. And that would probably be a very good entry if you wanted to add exposure into a mining stock such as Riot. And then there are a couple of others I wanted to talk about. So another one I quite like is HIVE. So again, this is one that had its peak towards the end of 2021. If we just draw on a retracement tool, then we can see that we've got a little bit to go until the first fib retracement. And if that happens, then, you know, that might be an area that we get some profit taking. But again, we're close to our 100-week here. We're above all of the other moving averages. We're above the 200-week moving average. And HIVE for me is another good play. It's looking strong. It's done fairly well to sort of survive through the bear market. Another one I quite like is Cleanspark. So Cleanspark is one that obviously topped out as well at the earlier part of 2021, and it made a 95% correction, so quite a big correction, but it's since really started to pull back up. And if we just like have a look at where we are, we're still down over 80%, so not quite as strong as maybe Mara and Riot, but Cleanspark is really starting to pick up again. It's got a little bit more work to do in terms of getting above some of its longer term moving averages. It's still below its 200-week, just because we were at such high prices for sort of, if we look at the history of the data, and then really started to come back down. But yeah, Cleanspark's another one I really like, and I just actually wanted to share some of the news that I've been reading lately on Cleanspark, because they just never really stop investing and purchasing new equipment. We can see this is 1 month ago, they bought another 12,500 mining machines. They bought 2 new mining campuses. That's 3 weeks ago. Obviously, new mining facilities. 2 weeks ago, it looks like that's the same news for 9.3 million, 2 mining campuses. This is the 12,500. They bought another 20,000 miners back in February at the start of this year. So what I'm trying to say is Cleanspark look to be really investing. They're certainly not a miner that seems to be short of cash. And yeah, obviously, if you're bullish on the Bitcoin price, I think Cleanspark could most definitely, with the expansion it's been doing, retest its all-time highs, if not push on higher. So at its current price, a price of around $6.50, I do think it's a pretty good entry. And even if we pull back to around $5, I think that's a good entry. So I think potentially Cleanspark is a better entry today than some of the others, such as Riot and Mara, that are looking a little bit stretched. And obviously there's a lot of hype around those based on the Vanguard news. If we also look at a couple of others, which I'm potentially not as hot on, but I still want to give them their time and actually review them. We can see we've got ARGO here. So ARGO literally fell 99%, massive decline in the bear market. And a lot of this was to do with the fact that it looks like they were about to go bankrupt. It was a story that I was following quite closely, because I'm trying to think, I think I might have picked some up when they were just under $100 at the end of 2021. I was just like, God, this stock is lost like 2/3 of its value. Could be a decent recovery if it gets back to the top of its range, and obviously it fell through. When I say I brought a bit of the stock, it was literally a couple of $100. It was just a token. I had a couple of hundred, I'll say a couple of $100, a couple of £100 just laying around in a stock account, which I just thought I'd just throw at it. Lo and behold, a year later, I'm looking at my portfolio, and I'm just looking at the price, and I'm saying, right, 200 pounds is now worth £20. What the hell has happened? And I remember sticking like just another £100 in, like down here, when it's like 2.5. Thinking myself, yeah, it's probably going to go bankrupt, but what's another 100? I've already lost 200, and it's turned around. So I mean, I'm still offside, but it has started to turn around. It's up pretty much a 5x from its low. So you're looking at around about nearly $12.50 now. And sorry, should I say pounds? This trades on the LSE. So a bit of a bad habit here to assume that all the stocks that I look at are priced in dollars, but one is in pounds. So yeah, we're looking at sort of around 12.5 on the ARGO blockchain. And yeah, I think looking at it right now, we can see that this potentially has bottomed out. Obviously, it's made a high low. If it can clear this level here of around about 20, then I think we could see a fairly quick run up to its 200 moving average around about £50. And yeah, or 50 pence even. I'm pretty sure that stocks in the UK actually priced in pence. But let me just double check that actually. Well, yeah, GBX. So yeah, it is in pence. ARGO blockchain price. Yeah. So obviously GBP would be pounds, but GBX is pence. So just wanted to clarify that. And yeah, I think we've got a real chance of, like I say, this stock turning around. And I think out of all the blockchain stocks we've looked at, like this one almost definitely has the biggest upside, but also has the biggest risk. So you can see that, the multiples to get back to all-time highs are just absolutely stupid, like 3,000%. So it'd be over over a 30x if we were to get back up there. But look, I mean, anything's possible in crypto. All I would say with Argo, they've had to raise a lot of capital. They've had to refinance. They've had to sell a lot of shares and dilute a lot of the share value. So potentially returning to all-time highs might be a bit of a push, but I think certainly we could see returns of sort of 10x to around about sort of this area, this kind of 120, 140 area. I expect there to be a fair bit of selling coming into the market just above the 100 mark, around this sort of 120 region. But still, I think there is potentially a 10x trade on the table there if Argo managed to survive the rest of the year and into the Bitcoin halving, and then all miners I expect will take off as the price of Bitcoin takes off. And the final one to look at, which I'm not actually, I think I've sold all of it. I don't think I'm holding any of it more, but obviously I want to review all of the ones that I've looked at lately, is Canaan. So Canaan was a stock that was a little bit slow to get moving last time, as I showed you some of the other charts, like the Maras and the Riots really started taking off into the end of last year, doing crazy gains like multiples of 1,000. Canaan did some decent gains as well, not quite as impressive, but it really exploded around about sort of February, March time, went an absolutely insane pump. It's nearly a 10x, and then just completely collapsed. And I mean, this is when Bitcoin topped out in November of 2021. I mean, Canaan was literally not even like a quarter of its all-time high price. We're talking like topping out at nearly 40, and it's down at 10. So yeah, it didn't have the best end to the bull market, and since then it has come all the way back down to around about $2. And I actually remember it being around $2, just under $2, but around the $2 mark when I was buying it back in 2020. So it hasn't really gone anywhere over 3 years. It has gone somewhere, but it's come straight back down to where it started. So I mean, potentially you could say that this is long accumulation down here. It was down 95%. It's obviously ticked up a bit. If its low is around just under $2, then it's now just under $3. So I mean, it's up about 50%. It's nowhere near up anything like Mara or Riot are, which are obviously up 10 times that for the year. So that kind of gives you some perspective as to where Canaan is. It is definitely a lagger. It is definitely not as strong as some of the others. And if we just have a little look at some of the news stories on Canaan, so if we just go to news here, then we will see that we've got some reports being on fire and moving. However, if we look at this one from a month ago, Canaan Mining Company reports consequent decline in revenue, and I was just having a quick read of this one. If we actually pull this up, we'll actually see that Canaan has been selling Bitcoin as its revenue continues to tumble. So you've got a miner here that, in contrast to a miner such as Cleanspark, that's actually investing, that's actually holding onto its Bitcoin and is just wanting to mine more and more Bitcoin, you've now got a miner here that's revenue is declining, that's actually selling Bitcoin, so it's disposing of Bitcoin. I mean, it sold over 100 Bitcoin in the fourth quarter of, since the fourth quarter of 2022. Obviously, we don't know exactly what price they were sold at, but we're actually told that, I mean, they generated $6.2 million by selling their Bitcoin. And yeah, it's just obviously not what you want to hear as an investor. It's not encouraging, it's not reassuring. And obviously Canaan is definitely one of the laggers in the space. So personally, I'm staying away from it just because I have exposure to other mining stocks that I believe are better. If you're of the view that you don't want to chase a miner that's, pulled a 5x over the last 6 months, and you would rather pick up a mining stock with sort of higher risk, but potentially more potential upside if it does turn around, then I could totally understand for wanting to get into Canaan. I think in terms of mining stocks that are lagging, Cleanspark is probably one that's lagging Riot and Mara, but it's still very, very good and is looking to expand and looking to grow. So that would probably be my preferred one. And I think if I was to go for one that is a bit more risky and that I think has great upside, but also higher risk, I'd be more tempted to take a trade on ARB over Canaan. But that's, just my view, just my opinion on it. And Canaan could go on and surprise us all and get back to its all-time high. But I personally don't see it happening. And I would probably avoid this one and stick to some of the other miners that I've looked at today. And just on the subject of crypto stocks, we cannot forget Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. So this is one that bottomed out at the end of last year, and it's been performing very well since, as has the rest of the crypto market and also the crypto stocks. So we're up 200% on that from the lows. And we can see that, look, I mean, MicroStrategy is still well down from its all-time high. It's not as down as some of the other crypto stocks. So it's been a slightly more defensive play. Obviously, less chance of a stock such as MicroStrategy going out of business or running out of money because they're generating positive cash flows. But it's no secret they have been leveraging into Bitcoin. But as long as Bitcoin's turning around and going higher, then something like MicroStrategy are obviously going to benefit greatly from that, and so is their share price. So we can see here that MicroStrategy, I think, look, if Bitcoin gets sort of back above sort of the 30K, or should I say the 40K level, and starts getting back to its midpoint from 2021, then we can see here that the midpoint for MicroStrategy would really be around about the $850 mark, which would be a 2x from here. So we're not talking as crazy multiples as we are with some of the miners. Obviously, the Bitcoin miners have, a higher factor, but in terms of correlation versus Bitcoin. But MicroStrategy, I think, can also do very, very well. It's obviously holding a lot of Bitcoin, and obviously you add to that the fact that they have positive cash flows coming in as well. It should do very well if and when Bitcoin looks to hit higher price levels. And another one that I did want to touch on briefly is Square as well. So this is, or should I say, it's called Block now, but this is Jack Dorsey's company, and another company that's been hit hard in the crypto bull market. Obviously, Square is famous for the Cash App. However, Jack Dorsey, going full-time on Square now, really wants to turn it into a blockchain company and focus on cryptocurrency and also Bitcoin adoption. I'm not sure if this is really been heavily focused on payments, or whether it's more about adopting Bitcoin as an investment store of value. But I know he's very active still in that space, and we can see that Square fell a massive 82%, considering they're not they're a listed stock and they're not a miner. That is a pretty substantial pullback, and it's still 75% off its all-time highs. Do I think Block can turn around? Yes, I definitely do. And look, it's it kind of follows the analysis from the other stocks that we've looked at, that if we can sort of clear this $140 mark, then look, that could be quite a swift ascent back towards sort of higher prices and higher levels. And if we just throw in a Fibonacci retracement, no, that's not that one. then we can see that we're still a long way off even our 0.236, and that lines up with a couple of moving averages. So, you know, potentially we could see Square getting back up to $100 fairly quickly. If the crypto market continues to remain bullish, that's not going to be a massive multiple, but I think something like Square or Block is a stock that is potentially less risky than some of the crypto miners. So again, you are going with a stock that you believe to be less risk, that potentially has sort of higher certainty of returning back to its all-time highs should Bitcoin get back to its all-time highs. So I will leave it up there. Obviously, if there's any crypto stocks that you're into that I haven't covered, please feel free to comment with the name of those. And when I do my next update on crypto stocks, I can cover it. Also, let me know what you're into, what you're buying, if you've got a favorite cryptocurrency stock, and also if you can give us the reasons why. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I've given you some ideas and some things to think about. I think ultimately crypto stocks are a really, really good way to get exposure to the crypto bull run. And yeah, arguably even more volatile than certain cryptocurrencies out there. So yeah, just try to be careful, try not to get too carried away. And like I say, this video is purely entertainment purposes, so do not take any of this as financial advice. I'm just merely showing what I'm doing with my own money. And yeah, I will see you on the next one.